In honor of Black History Month, this is Pittsburgh Black History 2025, celebrating who we are. Here's your host, Allegra Battle.
Hello, and welcome to Pittsburgh Black History Month 2025, celebrating who we are. I'm Allegra Battle. People often ask, why is it important to celebrate Black History Month? Quite simply, it's a special time for all Americans to remember, acknowledge, and pay tribute to historical figures from our past and our present. It's a time to spotlight the waymakers, barrier breakers, innovators, and difference makers in all walks of life. We celebrate history makers in the arts, business, civic engagement, education, entertainment, military service, medicine, music, politics, religion, sports, and so much more. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll feature local and national history makers who made contributions we can all be proud of. And we guarantee that you will learn something you didn't know before. We'll speak with the Chief Community Affairs Officer of the Housing Authority, City of Pittsburgh, about their educational programs and how they make a positive impact on the city's public housing residents. And we'll hear from the Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations. They have been protecting civil rights since 1955 and recently reaffirmed their commitment to protect all citizens. We begin with a profile on Carter G. Woodson, the author, journalist, and founder of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. Here's Caitlin Starkey.
Carter G. Woodson was a skilled writer and historian who paved the way for African Americans in higher education and activism. As a college student, he earned a master's and a PhD, both in history. During his studies, he noticed how Blacks were marginalized and underrepresented in the history books, and it led to his passion of preservation and recognition. Early in his career, he taught in public schools in Washington, D.C., and served as dean at Howard University and West Virginia Collegiate Institute. In 1916, Woodson wrote the Journal of Negro History. 10 years later, he collaborated with the Association for the Study of Negro Life and American History to create Negro History Week. The thesis of his 1933 book, The Miseducation of the Negro, was that Blacks were being culturally indoctrinated rather than taught. It challenged readers to do for themselves, regardless of what they were being taught. It was one of his many works that sparked social activism. Carter G. Woodson died in 1950, but his commitment to our history left a legacy. In 1976, President Gerald Ford made it official, recognizing that Black History Month would be celebrated during February of each year.
Thanks, Caitlin. Research shows that when you teach Black children Black history, it improves academic performance. It also increases engagement, motivation, self-esteem, and identity. In reality, Black history education is not just about celebrating our past, but it's also about empowering Black students to see their potential and achieve success in the present and the future. And speaking of youth, throughout this program, young residents who live in the city's Northview Heights public housing complex will share information on history makers they've studied and learned about. Now let's hear about 5 local history makers in the arts, music, sports, and education. John McCann starts us off with this report.
Being first means being before all others in time, order, and most often importance. So with that in mind, here are 5 Pittsburgh firsts we'd like to share with you. The Pennsylvania House of Representatives has 203 members. Of that number, 38 are people of color. The first African American to represent Pittsburgh in Allegheny County was Walter Tucker. He was elected in 1930. The first full-time African-American teacher in Pittsburgh was Paul Lawrence Peeler. He was first hired as a part-time music teacher in 1933 and became full-time in 1937. 13 years later, in 1950, Pittsburgh's Charles Henry Cooper, also known as Chuck Cooper, became the first Black person to be drafted by an NBA team. Until that time, pro basketball was an all-white sport. Cooper was drafted by the Boston Celtics and became the second African American to play in the league. The first to step on an NBA court and actually play in an NBA game was Earl Francis Lloyd. Nicknamed Big Cat, Lloyd's first game was on October 31st, 1950, as a member of the league's Washington Capitals. In music, Patricia Prattis Jennings is a living legend. Born in 1941, she became the first African-American member of the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra at the age of 23. A world-renowned pianist, you can view her complete profile by going to YouTube and typing in her name, Patricia Prattis Jennings. Meanwhile, did you know that America's first black game show host was born right here in Pittsburgh? Betty Lee has that story.
One of the most unheralded black history makers in show business was Patrick Henry Wade, known professionally as actor Adam Wade. Born on St. Patrick's Day in 1935, Wade graduated from Westinghouse High School and studied science at Virginia State University. 3 years later, he returned home to work at the University of Pittsburgh as a lab technician under Dr. Jonas Salk, the man who developed the vaccine for polio. In the late 1950s, Wade ventured into arts and entertainment as a singer. With a smooth, silky voice that was compared to Johnny Mathis, he registered 3 top 10 hits on the Billboard Top 100. In the 1960s, he began his career in acting, making his debut in 1966 on the network television show Tarzan. From TV, he made his way to the movies, and in the early 70s, Wade appeared in several films, including Shaft, Across 110th Street, and Claudine. In 1975, he made major history, becoming the first black person to host a network game show. CBS's Musical Chairs featured contestants trying to come up with the correct lyrics and song titles. The game show featured guest stars like The Spinners, Sister Sledge, and singer Irene Cara. Despite its popularity, producers of the show say they received all kinds of hate mail, and it would last only 5 months, from June to October. Wade resumed acting, and his TV resume grew, with appearances on Search for Tomorrow, Sanford and Son, The Jeffersons, What's Happening, Kojak, The Love Boat, Good Times, and many other shows. He was also a star on Broadway, and from 2007 through 2010, he toured and starred in the stage version of The Color Purple. Wade spent the greater part of his life as a resident of Montclair, New Jersey, and passed away in June of 2022 at the age of 87. There are more than 2,500 terrazzo and brass names of stars on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Pittsburgh born and raised, Adam Wade was a pioneer who made it happen in show business and should be among them. I'm Betty Lee.
Thanks, Betty. Throughout February, there are a number of exhibits and programs in the city where you can increase your knowledge and celebrate Black history makers. In downtown Pittsburgh, the National Negro Opera Company is being honored the entire month with a display in the grand lobby of the City County Building. The NNOC was founded in Homewood in 1941 as the first African-American opera company in the United States. Founded by Mary Caldwell Dawson, it was instrumental in breaking racial barriers to allow Black opera singers to showcase their skills and their talents. Coming up, we'll celebrate more trailblazers and hear how the city's housing authority and their educational initiatives are benefiting public housing residents of all ages. As we go to break, here's some more Black history knowledge.
Hi, my name is Keelan, and Black history is Benjamin O. Davis Sr., the first Black general in the United States Army.
Don't let the respiratory season put a damper on your plans. Get vaccinated. The Allegheny County Health Department offers influenza, COVID-19, and RSV. Make sure you safeguard yourself and your loved ones by getting vaccinated. Visit your doctor, your local pharmacy, or call the Allegheny County Health Department Immunization Clinic in downtown Pittsburgh at 412-578-8062. That's 412-578-8062.
Happy Black History Month to everybody.
Happy Black History Month.
Happy Black History Month. Happy Black History Month. Happy Black History Month. Happy Black History Month.
The Power News Radio Network.
Hollidaysburg, Pennsylvania is about 2 hours away from Pittsburgh, and that's where Daniel Hale Williams was born. In 1893, the man known as Dr. Dan performed the country's first known open heart surgery when he repaired a knife wound suffered by James Cornish. The operation was successful and Cornish lived another 20 years.
Knowledge is power.
Welcome back to Pittsburgh Black History Month 2025, celebrating who we are. Black History Month is not exclusive, it's inclusive. Learning about the diverse experiences and accomplishments of Black people can help challenge negative stereotypes and give you a better understanding of what the celebration of Black History Month is all about. According to the National Institute of Health, Black history is American history, and the narrative of Black people reveals more about who we are as a country. It goes on to say that the omission of this narrative is not only harmful for Black people, it's dangerous and harmful for the entire country. Now, getting back to our profiles. Helen Faison was a trailblazer who worked in the Pittsburgh public school system for an amazing 43 years. And Nate Smith was a prize fighter who became a barrier-breaking labor leader. Jerry Scott has more.
In the 1960s, there were 30,000 craft union jobs in the steel city of Pittsburgh, but only 2.5% were held by Black people. Mathematically, that's only 750 out of 30,000. That's until one man called attention to the inequity and did something about it. In 1968, Pittsburgh was changing to a more modern city, and with federal funding, construction jobs were all over the place, but not for Black people. White construction companies telling groups such as the NAACP that there were no Blacks qualified to operate heavy equipment. That's when Nate Smith stepped to the forefront and offered to use his skills and experience to train and elevate others. Through Operation DIG, thousands of minorities joined trade unions in Pittsburgh. As co-founder of the Black Construction Coalition, Smith helped lead marches in downtown Pittsburgh to protest the exclusion of Black laborers. By doing so, he became a constant target of death threats. In 1969, Smith helped negotiate an agreement to hire more Black construction workers in the city, known as the Pittsburgh Plan. It became a national model for cities across the nation trying to integrate their workforces. Nate Smith had a philosophy, and it's one that anyone can live by. Don't nothing happen if you don't make it happen. The history of Black education in the Pittsburgh public schools dates back to 1831, when Reverend Lewis Woodson established the first school for African American children. Nearly a century later, a young lady born in Homewood, Helen Smith, who later became Helen Faison, graduated from Westinghouse High School with a dream to become a teacher. At the University of Pittsburgh, she earned bachelor's and master's degrees in education and a doctorate in educational administration. This would lead to a lifetime of work in her chosen profession. In 1950, she began as an English and social studies teacher and quickly became a role model for students and fellow teachers. 10 years later, Dr. Faison became the district's first Black female guidance counselor when she was hired for the position at Westinghouse. In 1968, she made history again when she became the first African American and the first woman principal at Fifth Avenue High School. After more than 4 decades as a teacher, advisor, and administrator, Dr. Helen Faison retired. But her career was not over. In 1999, she would make more history when she came out of retirement to work as interim superintendent, making her the first Black superintendent in the history of the Pittsburgh Public Schools.
That was Jerry Scott reporting. Continuing on with education, the Housing Authority of the City of Pittsburgh has a number of programs to improve the lives of public housing residents, including ones focused on youth and young adult education. Michelle Sandage is the Chief Community Affairs Officer for HACP, and she spoke with Ty Miller about how they're making an educational impact.
Michelle, thank you for being with us. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Let's start with HACP educational programs. Talk to us about some of the programs for youth and young adults.
So we have a number of programs that stretch across the city of Pittsburgh, right in public housing. We have a partnership with the Sarah Hines House, the BJWL, ABK Learning and Development Center. That's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week childcare center in the Hill District. And then we also have Youth Places and the Center That Cares. So those are just some of the after-school out of school time programs that we have.
Now, you have programs for all adults, including the seniors. So what are some of those programs?
So we have a cyber bus. We did have, and we still do have, a small digital mechanism to be able to connect with our residents. But now we have a cyber bus. It's in partnership with the STEM Coding Lab, as well as the Jerome Bettis Foundation. And it was funded by RK Mellon and others. It is a mobile computer lab that does stops in various communities, and you can get on the cyber bus. It's Wi-Fi equipped. It's wheelchair and handicap accessible. And you can do a number of things from STEM coding for young people to things for adults, like AARP gave us a grant and we did telehealth with our seniors, as well as just setting up seniors with Facebook and internet activity, just teaching them how to turn on the computer, because a lot of people take that for granted, but just the basics of what you do with your computer, with your phone, with your tablet. We took our seniors through that as well.
Now, as you mentioned, the Cyber Bus is a moving program. You've been to the Super Bowl, and in 2026, the Cyber Bus will be right here in Pittsburgh for the 2026 NFL Draft.
Correct. We took the cyber bus to the Super Bowl in Phoenix, Arizona. We partnered with a Native American Indian tribe there, the Pasca Yaqui tribe in Phoenix, Arizona, and we did a number of digital literacy things with them. We shared some of the things that we do here in Pittsburgh, PA, as well as we went to one of their high schools also. If you participate in any of our digital or self-sufficiency programs, you get a tablet, which enables you to, participate anywhere with the programs. But of course, you have to sign up, participate, and you have to be engaged and complete.
One of the best programs the Housing Authority has is your scholarship program, which has been in place for a long time. Talk to us about that and why it's worked so well.
So our scholarship programs kind of morphed out of our Clean Slate E3, which started in 1998. The name of the scholarship program is our Clean Slate E3 Scholarship. It provides young people who live in public housing who are going to college with $5,000 a year, every year for 4 years. So it's a total of $20,000. We beefed up the scholarship program thanks to our executive director, Castor D. Binion, who decided that we wanted to put more into our young people. So over the years, we've given out over $1 million in scholarships. We're partnering, as I said, with Need, and we look forward to being able to fill in the gap as it relates to education for young people in and around public housing.
All right. Well, anything else you want to share with us before we wrap up?
You can find out any and everything about the HACP and our Clean Slate E3, our scholarships and our programs that we have for residents who are either in public housing or in and around, who are looking to do employment, home ownership, any education, recreation. Just go to our website, www.hacp.org.
Michelle, we appreciate it. Thank you for being with us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Coming up, the Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations will discuss its commitment to protecting civil rights. That's when we continue on with Pittsburgh Black History Month 2025, celebrating who we are.
Hi, my name is Tina.
Hi, my name is Kiara.
Black history is Max Robinson,
the first Black man to anchor a national network news broadcast.
Disparate impact, also known as discriminatory effects, is a form of discrimination where a housing policy or practice looks neutral but significantly harms equal access to fair housing. Discrimination is often subtle, and many people affected by disparate impact might not realize that discrimination is happening. Do any of these situations look familiar? A person tries to rent an apartment and is turned away because they have an arrest on their record, even though they were not convicted. This policy often disproportionately affects people of color who experience increased rates of arrest. A real estate office always schedules its closings on Fridays because that is when their staff is most often available. When a Muslim couple is ready to close, they ask to meet any other day of the week because of their Friday prayer schedule, but the office says they are unable to accommodate that request. In all of these examples, the bottom line is this: subtle discrimination is still discrimination. If you think a housing policy or practice is having a disparate impact on you because of your protected class, please contact us. We are here to help you. We are the Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations, and our mission is to ensure fair housing for all of our city's residents.
Hey, Pittsburgh landlords. Want guaranteed monthly rent? Fair market for your neighborhood. Tenants you choose. Great. Then check into the Housing Choice Voucher Program from the Housing Authority of the City of Pittsburgh. You could even get a signing bonus. Pittsburgh landlords vouch for it. We think you will too. Visit hacp.org to learn more.
Now, back to Pittsburgh Black History Month 2025, celebrating who we are.
Welcome back. I'm Allegra Battle. If you have children born between 1997 and 2012, they're referred to as Generation Z, or some like to call them the TikTok generation. TikTok is currently the most popular social platform for Gen Z, and it has had an impact on a much wider audience by engaging Americans from 3 years old all the way up to 100. TikTok creators often post entertaining videos with comments, trends, challenges, humor, and so much more. And as we're about to scroll and see, they also use it to share knowledge about Black history.
I learned about this on TikTok.
Did you know that the first EMT and paramedic service here in the United States was run almost entirely by Black people? Before the 1960s, if you were having a medical emergency, either the police or somebody from a funeral home would come pick you up and take you to the hospital. In transit, their goal was to not help stabilize you on the way to the hospital, but merely just to get you to the hospital as quick as possible. From this, the Freedom House Ambulance Service was born, and it was staffed entirely by Black paramedics. The paramedics were not interested in just helping the Black community, they were willing to help anybody of any race. But unfortunately, they were often denied access into wealthy white neighborhoods because even though it was well known that they were doing a better job at saving lives than the police, people would rather take white police over a Black paramedic. Despite being wildly successful, the program only ran from 1967 to 1975, where the city then cut it due to budget reasons. But shortly after that, the city of Pittsburgh did start their own program that was staffed almost entirely by white people, and the Black people who had years of experience above them were forced to retrain just to enter the program, and most of them weren't allowed in.
Today, Mary Kenner. Mary Kenner was an African-American woman born in 1912 to a family of inventors. But by the age of 6, she was already creating inventions of her own. You know, little things to help her around the house. But eventually, one of her most popular inventions would go to improve the livelihoods of many women around the world. In the 1920s, she revolutionized the sanitary belt, which would serve as the precursor for today's modern maxi pad. Her invention helped secure the pad and prevent leakage, which allowed many people to feel comfortable going outside on the menstrual cycle.
Did you know in the 1800s, if you tried to run away or did not want to be held in bondage as a slave, that you were considered mentally ill? Yes, it was classified as drapetomania. Samuel A. Cartwright is actually the one who coined the drapetomania. And he basically felt the slaves had a disease for having the urge to want to get out of bondage. That's crazy, huh? They call you mentally ill because you don't want to be beaten or held captive.
Knowledge is power.
Now let's turn our attention to civil rights. In case you didn't know, civil rights are legal protections for all people. The Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations has been at the forefront of protecting civil rights since 1955 and recently reaffirmed its commitment to standing against discrimination, bigotry, and hate. Ty Miller spoke with Commission Chairperson Tiara Collins.
Chairperson Collins, what is the Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations and how long has it been in existence?
So the commission turned 70 years old this year. We are the official civil rights enforcement agency in Pittsburgh. Our mandate is to investigate discrimination allegations and try to find a way to resolve discrimination issues. Our goal is to make sure that you are not being discriminated by police brutality, housing, employment, or any injustice that is not fair to you. And it has nothing to do with color. It has to do with what our human rights are. So we're fighting for equal rights for all. It's not about who's right. It's about equal rights for all.
Give us a number and a website where we can contact the Commission on Human Relations.
Office phone is 412-255-2600, and the website is www.pittsburghpa.gov/CHR. So if you feel like that you're not being treated the way that you should be as a human being, man, female, whatever you, she, her, him, however you see yourself, you are to call the Commission of Human Relations, because we're here to fight for you.
Hello, my name is Anaya. Black History is Fannie Lou Hamer, a civil rights leader and founder of the Freedom Democrat Party.
You're watching Pittsburgh Black History Month 2025, celebrating who we are.
The Housing Authority City of Pittsburgh, the Jerome Bettis Bus Stops Here Foundation and STEM Coding Lab have teamed up to tackle digital literacy with the mobile lab program known as the WOW Cyberbus. The Big Blue mobile lab travels daily throughout HACP communities and all over Pittsburgh, stopping to offer remote instruction in STEM education, computer science, financial literacy, and business developments for both students and parents. This past spring, the Cyberbus traveled to Bettis's hometown in Detroit, Michigan for the NFL Draft. It made stops at Boys and Girls Clubs to promote the mobile STEM learning program, and they even gave out tablets. In the spring of 2026, the NFL Draft comes to downtown Pittsburgh. The WOW Cyberbus will be there, and we hope to see you there too. To find out more about the WOW Cyberbus program, visit hacp.org.
You've been watching Pittsburgh Black History Month 2025, celebrating who we are. To wrap things up, here's Allegra Battle.
Pittsburgh has a rich African American history, and the library is a good source of information with book selections celebrating the past, present, and future. Books you should consider reading include The 1619 Project by Nicole Hannah-Jones, Black AF History by Michael Harriot, and Superheroes Are Everywhere, written by Kamala Harris. We also encourage you to take a virtual tour of the National Museum of African American History and Culture in Washington, D.C. There are several great videos on YouTube. As we end our show, we'd like to thank the Housing Authority City of Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Commission on Human Relations, and the Allegheny County Health Department. And thank you for watching Pittsburgh Black History Month 2025, celebrating who we are.